block looting in order to gain power for themselves. These peacekeepers and de-escalators cooperate with the police to derail and destroy uprisings to show the white power structure that they are responsible parties. That, because they can control and contain the unruly masses, they are the natural leaders, the people who should be negotiated with. This book is spit in their eyes. Looting is so unpopular, not because it is an error or bad for the movement, but because it is often a movement's most radical tactic. Looting attacks some of the core beliefs and structures of cis-heteropatriarchal racial capitalist society, and so frightens and disturbs nearly everyone, even some of its participants. After all, we have all been raised and trained to hold, follow, and reproduce those beliefs every day. Looting rejects the legitimacy of ownership rights and property, the moral injunction to work for a living, and the justice of law and order. Looting reveals all these for what they are, not natural facts, but social constructs benefiting a few at the expense of the many, upheld by ideology, economy, and state violence. That looting is one of the most racially loaded, morally abhorred, and depoliticized concepts in modern society should come as no surprise. From its very first usages, the word has served to reinforce the white supremacist juncture of property and race. The word loot is taken up from the Hindi word loot, similar to plunder or booty, which first appears in Anglophone contexts in 1788 in a handbook on Indian vocabulary for English colonial officers. In loot's first recorded appearance in the English language, it describes how an officer managed to gain consent and gather recruits for subduing Indian resistance. He always found the talismanic gathering word loot, plunder, a sufficient bond of union in any part of India. The racialized idea of an Indian identity did not yet exist outside the minds of the colonizers, but a natural racial tendency, one overcoming tribal, religious, and cultural differences, could be revealed by the offer of plunder. In other words, a deviant relationship to property is the sufficient attribute that unifies and defines an otherwise disparate group under the sign of race. The earliest appearances of the gerund looting, meanwhile, refer to hirsute Sikhs and Chinese blackguards. Looting is a word taken from a colonized people and used to denigrate and racialize riotous subalterns resisting English empire. It would, from the very beginning, refer to a non-white and lawless relationship to property. The looting that I am defending in this book is not that act that can be described by the synonym plunder. The looting of captured territory by armies, for example, or of colonial wealth by empire and its agents, can be equally well described by words like robbery, pillage, booty, and spoils. But the looting described, defended, and historicized here, that of a crowd of people publicly, openly, and directly taking things in the midst of riot and social unrest, has no easy synonym. I personally like the phrases proletarian shopping and shopping for free quite a lot, and use the Marxist expropriation too. But all those phrases drain the idea of looting of its racializing character. Although it is understandable why people would want, in defending their movements, to find a less charged word, it is precisely the fact that looting exists at the nexus of race and class that gives it its tactical power. Looting is a method of direct redistribution of wealth, from the store owners and capitalists to the poor. Looting, as scholar Delio Vasquez writes in The Poor Person's Defense of Riots, directly results, unless you get arrested, in your acquiring the things that you are seeking. It is a practical, immediate form of improving life. Looting represents a material way that riots and protests help the community, by providing a way for people to solve some of the immediate problems of poverty, and by creating a space for people to freely reproduce their lives rather than doing so through wage labor. Looting is an act of communal cohesion. But looting is also an act of excess, of property destruction. When something is looted, that thing's nature as a commodity is destroyed by its being taken for free, out of the cycle of exchange and profit. Everything in the store goes from being a commodity to becoming a gift. Less abstractly, looting is usually